Spoiler warning. If you haven't watched the show that we are discussing today and want to avoid spoilers, stop right there. Go binge and come on back. If you have or don't mind spoilers, sit back with your favorite drink and enjoy.
Like in the movies. Okay.
Welcome to Coffee and Dramas.
Welcome back. Merry Christmas.
Happy New Year.
Hope everybody had a safe and lovely Merry Christmas and New Year.
With food. Lots of food.
Lots of food. Lots of
Zoom chats, maybe?
Zoom meetings. Google Meets.
If you were allowed to be with your family, good for you. Lucky you.
Yeah. Christmas. I think some people could have done Christmas.
Oh, that's true.
Right? Because the lockdown started on the 26th.
Yeah.
It's New Year's, which I don't know. Anyway, so welcome back to Coffee and Dramas.
Woohoo.
With your host, Nadia, over there.
Hi.
And myself, Michael. What's up? Today, we actually are going to talk about a pretty awesome show.
Yes, I agree.
Called Mystic Pop-Up Bar. Mm-hmm. We also have a special guest that will give us a little bit more insight on certain topics of that are talked about on in Mystic Pop-Up Bar.
Yeah.
She is a special guest, so I'm not going to say who it is yet. So you have to keep listening or keep watching, and then you'll get to know who. She should be on sometime soon. Mm-hmm. So this show, first of all, it has a great cast. So you got Hwang Jung-Eum, who plays Wol-Ju. Wol-Ju.
Love him.
She is...
Love her, sorry.
She is in She Was Pretty as Jackson, yeah. Right? And then she was in Lucky Romance, which I didn't watch. I started watching it, but because her acting style is so out there. Not out there. She's very
diverse.
Not diverse. She's how she's very not over the top. She's like at the top, but not over the top. In this show, she was over the top.
Yeah.
So I couldn't do it. Mm-hmm. But she's awesome. She's in another show called Kill Me, Heal Me with Ji-sung and Park Seo-joon, which we should watch, which looks hilarious. I also in this show is Sung-Jae from B2B, who's currently in the military. Yeah, that's right. I rhymed.
That's sad. Makes my heart hurt a bit.
So he was in a few other shows as well. He's been actually his acting has really progressed quite a bit.
Well, he was in Goblin.
Yeah.
Which is amazing.
Yeah, especially when the bar scene near the end where he's talking to the lady in red.
Yeah.
Oh man, that was amazing.
Yeah.
And then you have Choi Won-young, who's pretty much with Hwang Jung-Eum. They're both pretty. They got a long list. Like they got a big repertoire. They're pretty veteran in that. And then you got Jung Da-Eun, who is part of a group called Two Eyes. I think that's the name of the group. Two Eyes. I think they're not huge, but they're not bad. I listened to a few of their songs. They're not bad. And she was great. She was really good in the show. And then you have like a list of different actors in this, like a list.
Like they're older ones, right?
Older, younger, just a variety of actors. People we know, people we don't know.
Yeah.
Just because of the way the story is. So the show is about Wol-Ju trying to pretty much save the soul of her unborn child.
Yeah.
That she committed a great sin of pretty much hanging herself on the sacred tree while pregnant without knowing she was pregnant until after. So she's trying to pretty much help 100,000
Yeah.
people,
No, wait.
or 10,000.
No, 100,000, sorry.
100,000 people, living humans.
With past grudges or current grudges or
Yeah, I don't want to say just grudges, but like
things they can't solve themselves.
yeah. Exactly. So they always refer to them as grudges, but I mean, is it really a grudge when your child goes missing and you've been looking for them for the last 15 years? That's not really your grudge. That's really kind of an unfulfilled wish or something like that.
Yeah. I'm not sure what term you would use.
Yeah. So that's why, but
It like kind of goes like, I guess you could use like grudges in the sense where it's vast in its definition, whereas like all the show essentially is solving problems for people.
Yeah.
And the problems differ from person to person.
Yeah, exactly. And I think they did a good job with this because it shows like oh my god, it shows like a progression of the characters.
Yeah.
Right. So
We love progression characters here on Coffee and Dramas.
you can't have a show where the character doesn't grow even a little bit. Like there's one show that it happened and I hated that character because she didn't learn. You know what I mean? She always thought from start to end, she thought what she did was right when in reality it wasn't. I don't know if we'll get to that show. Maybe down the line, but not now. You haven't watched it, so. But anyway, so it's literally the adventure of the three main characters working together to help people. Yeah. Right, and at the same time help themselves, especially with Duke Sung-Jae's character Kang Bae, because of his ability, he had a really because of his curse ability, he had a really tough time growing up, right, and so he can come to terms with understanding it's not his fault for the things that happened. You know, because
as a child, it's hard, right?
Yeah, exactly, and like, well, that's it, right? So when he got older, that's what he needed to do, was forgive himself for the things that he couldn't control, right? So that's one of the things, and that's what our special guest will talk about as well. Our special guest will talk a lot about spirituality and the spirituality points of view from the show. Yeah. She did not watch the show.
So she's coming in with a fresh mind, guys.
Yeah. So please bear in mind that what she is expressing is what you can take, what you resonate with. Yeah. And whatever you don't resonate with, don't even, just take it as entertainment. Yeah. Right. But this is professional point of view, and more of a life learning kind of deal, right? And that's what I liked about the show, because it was, the characters learned a lot as they went, you know what I mean? Even about each other and about themselves and about life. So that's what was, I really enjoyed the show.
I did too. I thought it was really good. The progression was great. Even like just like the secondary, third characters, like the ones that would come in, have their issue and then have their issue solved. Yeah. Like you could kind of see within an episode how they progressed and how their life changed. Yeah. And how they're all the better for it. Like it just takes one person, right? To like change your life.
Exactly. It all it takes is one person, one little, not even an event, but just an interaction with that person.
Like it could just be a hug, and then your entire life or day or week could just be turned around. So I thought it was a great show in that sense.
Yeah, and what is awesome, exactly what you're saying is that what triggers everything is the drink. They come in to the bar, they have a drink with Wol-Ju, or you know what I mean, and from there everything takes a shift, like shifts. Everything in your in that person's life shifts, because they finally opened up about their problem. Yeah. And then they had someone actually listen, right? That is like the most important part of this, is the people listening. This is probably, so we talk about I talk about communication a lot in a lot of these shows. This obviously there was points in the show where communication was not evident. Well, not evident. Say so. There's certain things that each character didn't want to know about each other, like for them to know, right?
There's the tension
secrets,
in
right?
Korean dramas. Always, there's
Yeah.
always like, you want this person to ask this person, like the other person, a question, and it never happens. Never, never, ever, ever happens.
Exactly. Excuse me. And so in this show, you see that tension. But what's great is that the communication between them when they're solving the problems of each person that comes into the bar is amazing. Yeah. Like they actually, really tried their best to help the people and communicate with each other and communicate with the person to try and figure out what was wrong. Whereas when it came to their own problems, right, it started out Won Young's character didn't want to tell Wol-Ju that he was the prince in the past life. You know what I mean? He didn't want to. He wanted to keep that to himself because his whole goal was to protect her and just watch over her until she finishes fulfilling the 100,000 grudges.
Like tell her and like enjoy it with her.
But that's because he's feeling guilty, right? That's all the guilt inside of him that's stopping him from doing that. And that's what he needed to kind of get by, right? That's what he needed to move away from, right?
I agree. I still think it would have been nice to like see them love each other. Well, yeah,
you do, but like
no,
obviously
know,
it's more to the end, like at the end, like.
Well, it's also a platonic love. Like they do care about each other very much, all three of them.
Yeah.
Without knowing who they actually are to each other, right?
Right. Like you're drawn to certain people, and sometimes you can't explain why you have a connection with this person. Let's say he was like in the first the first 10 episodes, 8-9 episodes, he's only been there less than a month. Yeah. But he can't wait to go and see them. He can't wait to go and talk to them. He can't wait to, you know what I mean? And it's only been less than a month and they already have this connection. Yeah. And when
they disappeared, he was broken. Like he didn't know what to do. He didn't know how to act. Like he's shattered essentially.
Exactly. And in life, the same thing happens. Like you're going to meet people that you just automatically connect with. You just automatically click. You'll talk to each other as if you've known each other for 20 years. You know what I mean? Like that was when I met one of my best friends, Cardi. When we spoke to each other as if we've known each other for years and years and years and years and years and years. But we didn't. You know what I mean? Like we when we first met, we barely spoke to each other because I didn't really hang around. Yeah. I was working school and sports and all that crap. Yeah. And then after high school, it started. After high school when I had time, you know, we finally actually hung out. And that was it. That was we've been friends ever since. We hung out almost every single day. Well, granted, we lived in pretty much the same neighborhood. Yeah.
Well, you guys can walk over to each other, right?
Yeah, pretty much every day.
But did you walk over? Did you guys drive to each other's house?
No. This is before I even had my license. So he would walk over. I would walk. He would walk over because his neighborhood was worse than mine. Yeah. So we grew up in a pretty shitty neighborhood. So he walked over to mine because it wasn't as bad as his. And we would hang out around in my neighborhood because there's a few other people there with us as well. Yeah. Right.
Okay.
Anyways, so you can introduce yourself.
Okay, so I'm May, your sister, number 2. Basically, I own my own business. I'm a baker and I'm a home baker, and which is funny because spirituality is not what I do professionally,
Right.
but it's something that I've always been interested in. I've always had an interest in it since I was really, really young. And I got into basically developing my spirituality and all that stuff when I first got introduced to Reiki in 2015, I would say. No, I was actually 2014. I was having a hard time at a job that I didn't like, and everything was just going south, basically. And I discovered meditation, I discovered Reiki, energy healing, all that stuff. And it was actually one of my closest friends that introduced me to Reiki, which you guys all know her too, because I
Right.
introduced you guys.
Yeah.
And I took my classes, and I'm a Reiki. I did my level 1, 2, 3, and then I will be doing my master in January. So, but I mean, yeah, but I mean, spirituality is a whole rabbit hole that you could take yourself into. So, I mean, you gotta,
Right.
there's a lot of reading, a lot of all that stuff. So, yeah.
Right. It's very interesting too. It's like it's such a like not a different way of thinking, but more, in my perspective anyways, is a more logical way of thinking through life in general, kind of thing. Eases the way you can get through certain, events or traumas or whatnot, so first of all, thank you for being on our show. Appreciate it, especially being our first actual guest. So the show that we're doing today is called Mystic Pop-Up Bar. It's a really good show, and I do recommend it to anybody who is not who doesn't watch K-dramas.
Is it dubbed though?
It's not dubbed. It's subtitled. So if you don't mind subtitles, by all means. But if you do, sorry. So the first, one of the first things we wanted to talk about was the ancestors. So in Korean culture, ancestry ties, their ancestors are very important. Like that's where a lot of their names come from, like the family names. They're all ancestry names, right? And they're all tied to their ancestors. One of the episodes is pretty much based on one of the souls of the ancestors trying to win good karma for his descendant, right? Because all he did was pass down bad karma and negative karma kind of thing. In spirituality, from what I know, is that there are ancestral or generational ties and curses that descend from, like, your great grandmother, your great 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 granduncle or whatnot, right?
Yeah. I don't know if I would call it a curse, but yeah.
Right. Well, not curse, but like kind of like energy, or not even energy, like kind of like a.
Yeah, it's trauma technically.
Right.
I guess, as you would say, it's like intergenerational ancestral trauma karma. Yeah.
There we go. Yeah. See,
Yeah,
this is why you're here.
No, it's like it's yeah. So, anyways, yeah. Sorry, keep going.
So oh, can you hold on? Sorry, can you check if it's recording still? I just want to make sure. Okay, perfect. Sorry. Sometimes our equipment doesn't like to do what it's supposed to do. So can you explain more a bit about like how the karma is passed down through generation? Like how does it affect, how does like what way my great grandfather and his like negative karma or whatever is passed down through generations to me, kind of thing? And how do you go about trying to stop it? Because in the show, it's the soul of the ancestor that's trying to stop that, whereas in real life, it's you, right, that needs to cut that, right?
That's funny. Like that. This is a whole whatever. Like it can actually. Okay. So basically, I guess we're gonna explain what ancestral trauma, intergenerational trauma, karma, all that stuff is.
Okay.
It's basically something that happened with your great, 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 great grandparents, back, whatever. It could have been something traumatic that happened, like in a relationship. Something happened with their parents. Something happened to them, a trauma, stillbirth, God forbid, things like that. So what happens that gets embedded in our DNA.
Okay.
And through our DNA, it gets passed down through generation. So like one of the best examples, I think, for us in the Western society is the indigenous culture. How they came out and they were massacred, all that stuff, right? So, and then we know about the whole the schools that the Canadians
residential
had and all
schools?
that, right? The residential schools, right? And all of the stuff where they had fed them alcohol and drugs to kind of like get rid of them. So a lot of that trauma was passed down through generation, and that's why you see how they are right now, how they're unstable, how they're trying to get back their identities, but they haven't cut off of what happened to their ancestors.
Okay.
So basically, it follows you. I mean, we're 6 in our family, right? So we don't know what I take from from our grandparents and what you've taken from your grandparents.
Right.
It could be relationship that we're not good in relationships. Where money, it's like water. We spend money like water. We can't save. Things like that, right?
Right.
So that all has to do with like generational trauma.
Okay.
So things like that, like these are like things that like you're like, but I save, I do, I'm trying not to like spend, and then you're like, I don't have any money, and it's things like that kind of like come up, and you're gonna question, and you wouldn't even think to question things like that to happen in your grandparents and all that stuff. But we could see as far back as our parents, and we know that it wasn't always easy. So we tend to kind of take that and we play victim, and we take it on, instead of stopping it, right? But once it's there, that's when you could stop it from happening, and it stops at your parents, or it stops like before it gets any further to your kids and your grandkids.
So the first thing you gotta do is kind of be aware of it, kind of accept the fact that your parents or your grandparents were like this, and that you want to kind of try and change that, right?
Right. You want to be, I don't want to I hate saying that you want to be better than that, because it also comes down to the fact that you as a soul came into this life to learn a lesson, right? And you chose this life to learn that lesson, and maybe whatever happened to your grandparents is that lesson that you need to learn.
Right.
Maybe it ties all in together, right? So it's like having to kind of sit with yourself and see like, okay, why do I do this? And why does it happen? We as a soul, we, have certain lessons that we need to learn. So maybe we're supposed to like stop whatever happened, and maybe we're supposed to kind of learn from that lesson. I mean, everybody knows Oprah, so I mean, she's always said it, you'll get a whisper the first time, and so you're like, and then you keep going, and the same thing happens a second time, and then you get a knock, and you're like, whatever, and you keep going, and the same situation happens to you a third time, and you get knocked over by a 2x4. You gotta figure out that means something, that it's a lesson that you need to learn from it, and you need to fix it in a sense. Right.
Yeah.
So I feel like the generational trauma that we're living, like I said, could be alcohol, mental illness. It could be like, I mean, I'm not gonna say I'm not a professional, so I can't. Money, like blockages from like moving forward in life, things like all that stuff.
Thank you.
So it could, and so to be able to kind of like sit with yourself and kind of figure out what's going on, Meditation is probably one of the key factors on helping you move forward and kind of making you actually analyze what's going on in your life.
Right.
A lot of people don't want to sit with themselves. A lot of people don't want to kind of be in the quiet. And a lot of people are always like, I don't know how to meditate. When you start saying things like that is when you have to learn to meditate.
Well, that's where people are too scared to kind of see the reality, right? They don't want to accept that, oh, I'm in a really bad place and I should fix it. They don't want to see that. They just want to keep doing what they're doing because kind of like a comfort zone, right?
Yeah, it's easier. Honestly, it is easier to play victim, and it's easier to always tell yourself, this is how my life is. It's always going to be like this.
Right.
So why should I work at it?
Right.
It's easier to kind of, like you said, sit in your comfort zone.
Right. And everybody really needs to kind of sit with themselves, in my opinion, anyways. Even if you're comfortable in life and everything's fine, like it's always good to just sit with yourself and tell yourself how grateful you are for what you have and be grateful for what you don't need to deal with, right? So even if you have everything, you should still sit with yourself and kind of get to know yourself better, right?
Yeah, a lot of people are scared. A lot of people are scared to feel, or a lot of people are scared to kind of hear things that are like their own voice inside, right? So once you start like doing the meditation work is when you start realizing that there's a lot more to do in terms of work. So that's where your shadow work comes in as well.
Right.
The generational trauma brings out the shadow in you. And I'm going to explain a little bit what that is too, because it's like everybody knows the work of Eckhart Tolle, where he came and he said the ego, was all about how, you've got to break down your ego and you've got to be able to remove yourself from your ego and all that stuff. And he goes on and on, all that. Your ego is your friend because your ego is actually taking care of you in this life, right? And I know it's not a good thing. A lot of people think the ego is not a good thing, but it's actually what saves you in this life.
Oh, okay.
It gives you that comfort. It's kind of like allows you to move forward in a sense, in your life. But you also have to kind of come to terms with the fact that you do have like the shadow part of yourself, the bad part that people seem to think, that they label that bad part.
Right.
And the shadow is basically what Carl Jung kind of like put together in all his in his work. It's all about what you suppress, about what you hold back from your true self. And by being able to do the work and bringing forth your shadow and allowing it to kind of walk with your ego, that's when you're going to be in balance with yourself, when you come out with your true self, if I can say that. So let's say your shadow is basically when you're feeling jealous and it eats at you towards someone. When you feel angry, like super, super, super angry at someone, it's basically showing you something within yourself that you need to work on. So a lot of things can trigger you. But if you get triggered to the point where you're like fuming and you're like dying inside, then that's your shadow telling you something that you've got to work on.
Right. That's sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
It's funny because one of the main characters from the show is imbued with positive energy, with yin energy.
Yeah.
And so every time he makes physical contact with someone, so touched hand, handshake, bump shoulders, the person gets the urge to just start spewing their guts, to tell them their worries, to tell them to literally tell them their whole life story kind of thing. Okay. And then there's his love interest which is the opposite. And she has, she's like, her soul's imbued with negative energy. So she has the yang energy. So she's completely negative energy. So when you see scenes where she's trying to date guys, and every time a guy, she would physically, handshake or brush their shoulder, they would get so scared. Like they would, like the energy that comes off of her just kind of sets them so off that they run away. And so in the show, what they explain is that because he's full of yin energy and she's full of yang energy, that they need to pretty much fall in love. They need to be together to balance each other out, right? Because if he doesn't have any yang energy, he's not going to be able to, his ability is not going to go away, kind of thing.
So I have a story actually that kind of like sounds something like that, which is really cool.
Ooh.
So when I think a lot of people know this story too. It's not it's a myth. I think it's I've heard it since I was really young, like maybe like 6 or 7, and it's stuck with me forever.
Okay.
And it's a story about how someone is always in search of their soulmate. Right. So God created one person, and something happened where he split that person in two, and one person was on one end of the world and the other person was on the other, and they were always trying to come and find each other. And so that's where the story of the soulmate comes, right? Everybody's always trying to look for that one person, that one soulmate, to complete themselves, right?
Right.
And growing up, I'm like, okay, like it's such a, romantic story. It's, there's always that one person that's going to complete you and all that stuff. You're always looking outside of yourself for that one person that's going to complete you. And learning about spirituality and gaining more insight and all that stuff, you have several soulmates. You have so many people that can complete you in that term. You've got friends, family, a love interest will always be that soulmate that comes in your life that needs to be there in that moment, and then will probably move on or stay.
Right.
But your true soulmate, the person that you really need to go out and find, is your other self. So isn't it crazy?
Yeah.
So that story is like of your show is perfect because it is, you're looking at your yin, your ego, your whatever, and your yang, which is your shadow self, which is your negative energy, all that stuff.
Right.
So that you always have suppressed, that you're always putting on the side, that you're not, coming to terms with.
Right.
And it's that shadow self that you want to look for and find so that it completes you, because when you come together, it balances you out. So the yin and the yang is the balance.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's perfect. It's perfect.
See, this is another reason why I really enjoyed this show, was because of, like, you can take so much from like the deeper meanings through the characters and their interactions, and that's what I got from it, especially those two characters, but also because you're saying that you can have multiple soulmates. And this show kind of shows that as well, whereas the technically 4 main characters were all tied together in their past life 500 years before, and they didn't know it. So they all came back together, and every time they would reveal parts of each of their stories, you would find out, oh, well, they knew they were together back then, kind of thing. And so they were meant to be then, and now they're gonna be together again here, kind of thing. So they're always connected. And I found that really interesting, especially with the two characters, the yin and the yang. One of them was the unborn child of the main character, and the girl was a she was
sacred rock.
Yeah, she was a sacred rock that was, like, imbued with energy from the humans praying to her, kind of thing, to the rock. That would, it was like a sacred item kind of thing, right? And so she came back. She was reincarnated as this person, like as the girl. So she came back, but with negative energy. So they're all the main character, she used to go and pray with her mother to the rock because they were both shaman. So back 500 years later, she's there trying to save souls, like trying to help people, and then she meets her again. You know what I mean? And then they find out later, oh, she was that sacred item reincarnated kind of thing, right? So it's
funny because it's everybody that comes into your life, whether small or big impact, have passed through your past lives previously.
Right.
And there's probably something for you to kind of like settle. You know, you meet like, you know, friends, you're, you know, maybe you were angry at each other, you know, in a past life. And in this life, you have to come to terms with each other. You become friends. And then once that lesson or that, once that lesson, I guess, is done, you know that the relationship kind of dissolves and it kind of walks away because you know that lesson was learned.
Right.
And that situation won't happen again. So everybody in our lives come into our life to teach us, to move us forward,
right,
or to allow us to, like, you know, give them the chance to learn as well. So
right. Yeah. So we're all kind of growing together, kind of thing, right?
And we're all connected. Like energy is connection.
Right.
Like, all of us connected.
So another one of the other questions I had for you, it was there's like a running theme of forgiveness and love throughout the show. One of the things is the main character's ability and how he grew up. Every time, like growing up with that ability, he was an orphan, and every time he tried to get adopted, the parents would touch him and then they'd start fighting it out because they show their true selves to each other. And then, so every time that happened, all the other kids pretty much said, oh, you're cursed, you're cursed, you're cursed. So the main character ends up growing up and thinking like everything that happens is because it's his fault, right? It's his fault. And then same thing with the Yang. She did the same thing, was everything was her fault. She grew up thinking, oh, it's always my fault this stuff happens, right? Can you I preach this to my friends as well, is that you have to start by forgiving yourself.
Oh yeah, it's huge.
And can you kind of give us like a little guideline of how to do that? Like I know it's like
I'm still working on that.
Right?
Yeah, it's like it's huge. It's having compassion for yourself first and foremost.
Right.
Giving yourself that that birth, that like, you know, like no self-negative talk, like you're making sure that you understand that there's a reason why things are happening and why you're doing them. But yeah, it's having compassion for yourself first and foremost.
Okay. And I mean, it's such a big it's such a hard thing to start, because like a lot of people want to, you know, for those who want to better themselves, you know what I mean, and people who want to kind of move forward in life, or they keep thinking, oh, these things keep happening to me, what can I do? You know, it's,
well, if you see a pattern, you gotta I think you like the best thing to do is to sit and, like I said, meditate with it.
Right.
Keep a journal. A lot of people like to journal. I don't journal. I should. I've done it. But I'm telling you, it's such a rabbit hole you put yourself into.
Yeah.
But it's I do a lot of Reiki and a lot of energy healing. That's what I do, and that's for me is what is important for me to be able to heal on a lot of on a shadow level, on a emotional level, spiritual level, healing. So basically, to be able to kind of get through all that stuff and be able to, it's to find that compassion when you're in that meditative state, when you're journaling. You're going to write down everything that you think you're bad at, everything that you hate about yourself,
right,
all that stuff. And then you have to start saying things like, I love myself. Nobody can look at themselves in the mirror and say, I love you to themselves. You know how hard it is for people to look at themselves to do that? It's not the ego. It's really, you have to show compassion and love for yourself first before being able to figure out, like, giving it to other people.
Right.
And it's super easy to give it to other people.
Yeah.
But at one point, it ends up being fake.
That's it, right? Like it's such a hollow word at that point. You're always like,
it's so surface.
Right?
It's so surface. And it's been surface for such a long time right now with a lot of people that there's no connection and there's no real friendship.
Yeah.
And it sucks. It really sucks. And I think the pandemic has allowed to kind of bring that forth with a lot of people.
Yeah. It hasn't been a great.
It's funny because a lot of people were like, oh, you're not going to call me and you're not going to do this. You're not doing anything. So, you're not my real friend. Yeah, they are, because they've decided that they needed to kind of take a step back.
Yeah.
They needed to kind of go within.
Yeah.
And need to fix their shit before able to give you that support that you need.
Exactly.
Because if they can't support themselves, they can't support you.
Yeah.
That's the bottom line.
And see, that's where it's like, to me, anyways, your real friends are not the ones that are going to call you every day. My best friends, we can go without talking for, a few months. And then if I need something or he needs something, he calls me, texts me, like, yo, can you help? And it's like, done right away.
I'm there.
You know what I mean? Like it has nothing to do with, I have to like keep a schedule where I have to talk to you every single day. I have to text you, got to make sure you know. No, it's none of that. It's the emotional, mental and support that you give each other, right? So if I can, call up one of my friends and be like, hey, I'm kind of stuck. Can you come get me? I know that person's going to come right away, even if we haven't talked for like 2 years. Right.
Absolutely. Yeah,
so
absolutely.
That's where people need to kind of, just because this person doesn't want to talk to you every day, doesn't mean they don't like you.
That's exactly it.
Right?
Like it's crazy. It's this pandemic has really brought forth a lot of true faces and a lot of true natures from a lot of people.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
It's a good thing. It's a very good thing. I really hope a lot of people were able to kind of, and it's tough because you see that a lot of people don't know how to deal being by themselves. We're social,
we're social beings,
social animals,
yeah,
and it's true, we are. The pandemic has ruined a lot of lives, and I know that.
Yeah.
But the best part is that it allowed a lot of people to go within, and it's really sad because so many people couldn't do it.
Yeah.
And so many people were depressed, and so many people got to so many things happened that were on the bad side, and there's no support for those people. A lot of people couldn't get that support that they needed, and it was truly like sad to see. Like, and it's still going. Like, I mean, it's still going.
Yeah, so it's not gonna stop. It's nothing's gonna change for a little while.
Yeah, and there's nothing I can say or you can say to tell them to stop. Don't worry. Like, no, there's nothing. I mean, there's nothing. It's truly your journey.
Mm-hmm.
It's not my journey to walk for you.
Yeah.
I have to walk my own journey.
Yeah.
And I mean, there's a reason for everything. So if you stop and you just kind of like listen, I think you'll get your answers. But a lot of people won't.
No. And so the people like to distract themselves with various things, right?
Netflix.
That's why like Netflix, Facebook was huge. Nobody like it was just like the amount of so like this past Christmas or the last couple of months, like as you know, the hot chocolate bombs are huge.
Yeah.
They've been around for 4 or 5 years, but because everybody was home and searching the internet, it just blew up like crazy.
Yeah.
So that's the thing. People are just distracted still distracted.
Yeah. And that's it, right? Like, you distract yourself from, reality at that point. Like, and it's not good. So that's like one of the reasons why we wanted to do kind of this podcast, was kind of, people are distracting themselves with, like, for example, we are distracting ourselves with Korean dramas, K-dramas. So for those who are distracting themselves with the same things that we like, give them kind of like a real life perspective on the show that they enjoy, and that way they can get kind of a deeper, not because, so a lot of these shows are a lot of the people that do reviews on these shows are very surface as well, where it's like, oh, it's a great show, great acting, great story. We want to kind of give a more in-depth to the show and give it a real life perspective so that they can enjoy the show and kind of think while they're watching the show, kind of be like, oh, why would they do that? Well, would you do that in real life, kind of thing? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's why this specific show, Mystic Pop-Up Bar, is great, because it kind of shows all these aspects that we're talking about today. And I hope that people who are listening to this will rewatch the show or watch the show with this in mind, because I haven't watched a show that's quite as intricate as this show, and I do recommend it to whoever really who enjoys kind of like the spirituality, fantasy, supernatural aspect of a show, right?
It is like, and it's nice to know that when you're watching something, there's a theme to it, and there's something you can learn from it.
Yeah.
So yeah, I just hope, like, they do the research as well, because like like I said, it's a huge rabbit hole when you start delving into your spirituality. There's so much stuff, like it's unbelievable. But it's funny because the Western way of spirituality is so different from other parts of the world. And I find that the Western is super new in terms of spirituality. It's very like they call it new age. They call all that stuff, but if you really kind of like delve back into real spirituality, you can go into you could still be a Catholic or a Muslim, or a Buddhist, and delve into that as a spiritual practice as well. We're not telling you to like remove yourself from your religion.
Right.
If you really, really look at what the true meaning of being a Muslim or being a Catholic is, I mean, Jesus came here as a Jew, teaching you to better yourself first, and then to be able to help others.
Right.
I don't see that happening right now.
Yeah.
As a Muslim too, I mean, Prophet Muhammad came down, did the same thing.
Yeah.
It wasn't about religion. It was about treating yourself with self-respect, making sure that you go within, and then after that, you go out and you help others. And he put out, he set forth, all that stuff. It's a religion now.
Yeah.
It's not a way of life anymore. It's not delving into who you truly are when you take the practice of your religion and practicing it truthfully and meaningfully. You could be, like we're Muslim, so you can be a Muslim, you can wear your hijab, but you can be an asshole too. Sorry. How many people have we come along that the lady wears a hijab, she's supposed to be true to her faith, but she fucking turns around and tells me that, oh, your kid looks Asian, and that's not right. No, sorry. You just turned around and made yourself look really bad as a Muslim. And that's a true fact, because it happened to me, and it happens to me all the time. So, I mean, there's so many, like spirituality is just, it's such a beautiful, beautiful thing that I just hope people take the time to kind of go into it. I really honestly, it's
definitely.
It has no like rules, and it has no money, like it has nothing. It's really about getting to know yourself, getting to know who your true self is, what your soul is meant to do in this lifetime. What you can bring forth as a human. Really.
Yeah, exactly. And that's why we wanted you to talk about today, because that's pretty much what this show teaches each person that they help, was kind of to better themselves, kind of thing, and to forgive themselves for the things that the mistakes that they've made, but also learn from them and move forward, right?
That's actually a lot to do with free will. That's the other thing I actually wanted to touch on with your show. A lot of it has to do with free will, and a lot of people don't take that on anymore.
Yeah.
So free will is huge. Like, and if you want to know why things happen, it's because you're given free will, and if you choose a certain path, then that's the path you choose.
Yeah.
But you could reroute yourself several times, and you will still be brought back to where you need to go.
Right.
But they give you the choice.
Yeah.
So either you take the road that you're supposed to take or not. And if you don't, then you're going to go through all these obstacles to get to the same place that you were supposed to be in the first place.
Yeah.
But it's free will.
Yeah. It's yeah. That's like a whole we can have a whole.
I'm telling you, it's a whole rabbit hole
Yeah.
that I would love to get into, but it's like days of conversation.
Yeah, we'll have a whole nother episode just for that, or even a different entire segment on different topics of that.
Yeah.
But I don't have any more questions for you. Does Nadia?
Good.
Are those the three questions that you had sent me?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Can I say one thing though?
By all means.
When I say free will, it really, like, when people say it is what it is, that's your free will. By the way, it isn't what it is.
Yeah.
It's because you chose it to be that way. That's why it is what it is.
Exactly. Yeah.
I hate that saying with a passion, and you know that. I hate that saying.
Yeah.
And it's never it is what it is. It's because you made it that way.
Yeah.
And your whole excuse playing victim is you saying it is what it is.
Yeah.
So own up to it.
Exactly.
And fix it.
If you're not choosing to better yourself, or you're not choosing to do the opposite of what you're doing, it's free will, because you're choosing not to do it. No one's doing it no one's choosing for you. You know what I mean? It is what it is because you made it what it is. So it's free will because you chose to do that.
Exactly.
Right? Yeah.
I had to, because I hate it. I hate that.
We'll have a whole nother segment. I think we should have a whole nother segment about the different topics of spirituality.
Yeah, definitely.
That'd be great to have.
Like the next time we could do kind of like a Reiki type of.
Yeah, definitely.
Reiki on spirituality and how it kind of like all kind of binds together and stuff. So
yeah. Definitely. I think we pretty much touched on a lot of the points of the show. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
I think that's it. I mean, like, there's so much, because the way the show is, like, each person they help gets like an episode or two each.
Okay.
So it's different. There's different themes in each one, but each one is really about really touches mostly on forgiveness, because of each situation is similar, but also, oh my God, actually.
That was another question?
Just another, like, actually a reference to what you were saying. So each, I just thought of this, just thinking back to the show, each situation, each person that they help, all the situations kind of reflect on them, on the main characters.
That's true.
To help them, to help better themselves, kind of thing. Like, so.
Oh, that's really good. Yeah.
So one of them was a lady's son went missing 15 years ago, and she's been looking for him ever since, and she still can't find him. And so the main character, her name's Wol-Ju, she was the one that 500 years ago hung herself with an unborn child. And so every time there's a child like hurt, missing, or whatever, she really takes that to heart, because she doesn't know what the soul of her child is doing at that moment, right? So all she knows is that the soul of her baby has been in torment, has been living shitty lives every time it's reincarnated, and she has to pretty much help 100,000 souls, and then they'll be reincarnated to a better life. Now, every time there was a child involved with somebody that they're helping, she really went out of her way to help that person, because she didn't get the opportunity to do that for her child, kind of thing. And that's what she wants to do. So a lot of the themes, a lot of the situations really reflect on the characters themselves, and you see them grow and you see them change and react to each situation to better themselves, kind of thing. So it's sorry, that was a
No, that's cool, because like with Reiki, when I did some Reiki sessions with my my friend, and how I got really into it was because she does a lot of past life regressions
Right.
sessions with her Reiki. So when she's healing you with the Reiki energy, messages come up for her, and images come up for her, and she sees a lot of past lives. And it's so funny because a lot of the things that came up for her for my past lives, I saw here in this lifetime. Like, she gave me one where I died pregnant with my son, and it was like Egypt times, like thousands of years ago, like all that stuff. And Mason, when he was a baby, would always sleep on top of me. He stayed like that for about a year until he became too heavy and I had to kind of move him over. But that's how he slept on top of me, was like he was in my tummy the whole time. That's how he felt, like he needed to sleep on top of me.
That's crazy.
Yeah. And it just kind of like, I was like, oh, wow, like that's crazy. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Oh,
so
man.
many things in your life now reflects a lot of your past lives and comes back to you. You won't remember,
Right.
but for you to be able to kind of like close the chapter in a sense, to be able to kind of move on from it, to fix it, to heal from it,
Yeah.
Again, like it's yeah,
That
a
yeah.
lot of work.
Yeah. Man, okay. We should have had you on for our last episode. Our last episode was a show called Train, and it deals with parallel universes. So,
Oh my god, I love parallel universities.
right,
Oh my god, yeah,
right.
yeah. But
So,
that's another rabbit hole,
right. But it shows like, anyway. So
what could have, should
yeah,
have,
yeah.
would have.
Definitely
Like it's
check
crazy.
out the last episode, and if you can, like, even just watch clips of the show. It's called Train, and it really touches on a lot of what we discuss. You know what I mean? On like whenever we're having our little,
Whenever you're down and helping me bake, yeah.
it touches on all that, and it's pretty impressive. And I think we should do a part 2 for that.
Oh, jeez.
We'll get you
All
back
right.
on.
Sounds good.
But I think that's it for today.
All right. Thank you.
Well, thank you so
No problem.
much.
Thank you.
We
No
appreciate
problem.
you
I
being
hope
here.
people get to get something out of it, I guess.
Hopefully, yeah. Hopefully people at least enjoy it, and we'll see from there. We appreciate your time. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And
Thanks.
we'll see you again. Okay, so that was our special guest,
May,
my sister.
his sister. She owns Chocolata, her home-based bakery.
If you're watching on YouTube, I'm wearing her shirt because I help her quite a bit.
Yeah.
Well, we do anyways.
Yeah.
I just do a lot more deliveries whenever I'm there or here. She is our spiritual guide in life.
Guidance counselor.
May did raise me while my mom had to take care of all the other kids. So I spent a good deal of my childhood with May. And I looked up to her ever since I was a kid. So I thought, what better way to have a special guest than have this special person in our lives? May has done so much for us. So yeah. If
you want to order food, she delivers within Canada, Montreal, Ontario.
Montreal. She's
FedEx
based in
delivers.
Montreal. I'll start with that. She is based in Montreal, and we'll do deliveries to Ottawa because she does come down to Ottawa sometimes.
When it's not locked down.
After lockdown and all that nonsense. So yeah, we hope you enjoyed our special guest.
We did.
We did.
Very eye-opening for me, at least.
This is the type of conversations that we usually have together. A lot more in depth. Obviously, we,
to condense this conversation down a bit.
Yeah, we don't want to overload, right?
Yeah.
It's something that has to be a part. So if you want to hear more about spirituality and whatnot, you can always hit us up. Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, wherever you can find us. That'd be great. We're always free to talk, always free to give you more information, give you a hand.
As much as we know.
As much as we know. And if anything, we'll get May back and give us some more.
If you have questions, we'll just bring her on for another episode.
That's it. So we hope you enjoyed this episode. We enjoyed Mystic Pop-Up Bar. Highly recommend it.
Very highly.
It's only 12 episodes, which is shorter than the standard 16, 20 episodes of a K-drama.
I think it's a quick watch.
It is, yeah. I do. It's by episode 10, you're like,
I need to finish it.
It's only been a day. Yeah, by episode 10, it's you're like, oh crap, it's almost done.
Yeah, it made me sad.
Yeah.
But they wrapped it up really well.
Yeah, they did.
That made me happy. But like, it's always sad when a show ends and you're like, oh, it was good. I want more. But then, do I want more?
Yeah.
Because will it just ruin it?
That's it, right?
Yeah.
So that's it for today.
Yeah.
Happy New Year. Merry Christmas. Stay safe.
Happy
We love
holidays.
you. Happy holidays. We hope you start the new year on the right foot. And we'll see you again soon.
Bye.